name is Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killen.
I'm Kevin Mullen, and this is the 419.
All right, so we're starting something new.
We're starting something new.
With this podcast.
Yes.
I feel like, I don't know who started this. I feel like Matt is the one that brought this together. But like, what are we doing here?
So Gretchen and I were talking about this originally, and I think it is, we all share a similar love affair with, I think specifically the city, but we could branch out eventually to region, right?
Yeah.
And we have three different perspectives and a net of a lot of the same people based on the size of our town, but a lot of new people to introduce each other to. So Smartless, we were shamelessly ripping off that concept, right? So these are people who we think are interesting, who we may or may not know. We want them to tell their stories about themselves, their place in our little burg here. So it's really a combination of our love affair with it and telling the story of Toledo through other people's voices.
And for people that haven't heard the podcast Smartless, which we're shamelessly stealing, of the three of us, only one of us will know who the guest is.
That's right.
And so the other two will be surprised, and we'll hopefully just be able to have sort of a organic, get to know me kind of conversation with this person. So
Right.
I'm hoping it'll be fun. And we have landed on a name, Kevin.
It's taken us a
us
long time.
More text threads than I care to.
Well, I didn't read one of the single text thread.
You weren't on any of them.
If there's no better representation than we're the people
And
to
there
try to
isn't.
bring Smartless to Toledo.
Correct.
It's the amount of time it took us to come up
That's
with
right.
That's a great
this
point.
as the
That's
name.
right.
We knew we were on the right track.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we've settled on the 419.
That's
Yes. Now, the real question is, are we going to have that article in there? Is it going to say the 419 or is it the 419? I think it should be like written out like you're writing a check, like
Yeah.
419.
I think we should just do whatever the hell you want to do, which
Okay.
seems to be,
I agree with that.
subject of the show.
All in favor, say aye. This is
Okay, this is
the 419.
All right.
Doesn't that feel
excellent.
good? Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm excited because our first episode, it's my guest.
Okay.
Also because I demanded that be the case. So I invited someone I think that we all know, a favorite to at least two of us. I'm not going to say which two. But this person is like one of these people that I encountered her during COVID in the planning of a major community event.
She said her.
It's a woman.
Oh, okay. Encountered.
On Zoom.
Got it.
On Zoom only. I didn't see her legs for like a year and a half after I actually met her because I only engaged with her on Zoom.
Got it.
Planning a major event. But it was like, you identify people in these meetings and you're like, that's a person
Whose legs I want to see.
who's probably got a nice pair of stems. But I didn't think that.
First of all, I don't think anyone says that anymore.
I mean,
On to our
we were
guest,
doing-
Phil Collins.
I thought we were doing old-timey talking
Yeah.
on this podcast. No. Anyway, just all around cool, energetic, fun, brings like life into really anything she participates in.
Okay.
On a side note, and I want to talk to her a little bit about this, is she also is like involved with musical theater, which is, of course, something
I know who it is.
that I love and have always loved since grade school.
Cool.
She is the CEO of Imagine 901. Do you know who it is?
Yep.
It's our friend, Mary Brucker.
Mary Brucker. There she is.
hey.
Mary!
Yeah.
They guessed me.
They did.
Yes.
Matt just did, but I
Yeah.
think he was cheating.
I was
somehow.
trying to rack my brain to go back through because you had said you worked together on a major event and it was during COVID.
Correct.
And so I was trying to think what that would have been, but that was probably Solheim.
It was Solheim.
Okay.
That's
It was
exactly what it
Solheim.
was. So Mary was brought in. Well, tell us, Mary, how were you brought in to be a part of COVID? And welcome. I mean, not COVID.
part of
How did you cause COVID?
I was in an open air market.
How were you brought in to help
I was
on
eating bats.
Solheim?
I don't know if anybody heard. So the question is, how were you brought in
Yes.
to Solheim? What was your role with the Solheim Cup?
To Solheim Cup, yes. So I had done a lot of work with Destination Toledo, and my history of event management through a prior company that I was with, it just made sense that ProMedica and the city called upon me to take on the lead role of
What city?
This city,
Oh.
Toledo, Ohio.
Makes sense.
And it was truly one of the best experiences of my life.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was an amazing event.
Did you know what Solheim was when they first reached out to you? Tell the truth.
So I have been working on that. I had been working on it for several years prior to, so I did know.
Were you part of the group that went to
Scotland?
I was
a couple years
not.
before?
I was part of the conversation prior to that, but I was brought in.
I rented Braveheart.
And I saw.
So in many ways.
So, I mean,
That's how you had that face paint on. Now I get it.
I think Solheim is a really fascinating case study of an event and of a community coming together because I mean, to your question, I didn't know what Solheim
Same.
Cup was.
I agree.
Until it was coming here.
Right.
Right. And so, but yet I instantly knew the importance because people told me it was important.
Yes.
Right. People that I trust. And so it just had me thinking what other things like that exist in the world that we could bring to Toledo that we could tell people this is a really big deal.
And why not us?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Why
it
not?
could
us?
happen
That's
here.
Exactly right.
No, and I think that's exactly what happened during this process is first of all, it was an event that we have never done before, closing down the entire downtown, bringing, thousands of people to our city for a 3-day event. And I think at first we kind of questioned what were we going to do with this. The magic that happened was truly all parties kind of came together and said, this is our time. If no other time, then, how about now? And in the middle of a pandemic, I think you said that's when we made it happen. So to answer your question, I truly think that this has been the benchmark for our city to set to go, hey, we can do this. We can do it very well, and we're ready for more.
What's your strategy to get collaboration on things like that? So to get all of those parties, sometimes there were Zoom calls with 20, 30, 40 different entities on there. So what is your secret?
Well, like me personally, or the secret of the success?
Yeah, your secret strategy.
I think Kevin kind of summed it up. He said, people told him that it was important. And I think that is the key to collaboration, is to letting people know the importance of what it's going to mean to the people who are involved in it. I also am a firm believer in FOMO. So I think that if you create something that everybody has to be a part of, and you let them know that they have to be a part of, then they will. So I just think feeling a part of is a huge way to bring people together.
Did that event, I mean, to some extent, it sort of showed we can do big things, but I feel like it also said we can do really well, big-ish things.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that really for our market to know, I've heard people say
Right.
we want the US Open, right? We want a PGA Tour championship, and sure, that'd be great. But maybe that's not the right event for our market. Maybe there's a spot there that we could own.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, right now our current hospitality amount cannot support 100,000 people staying in our downtown area, but I do think that we can bring people in.
When you think of your own home, Mary, what is your hospitality amount? For
my
your,
own
for your
home,
house?
I say unlimited.
There you go.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I know. Anybody can come.
Just want to set some context.
Unlimited,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
But we can put people in corner and tents
Sure.
and stuff like that.
What if you could host anything in Toledo? What is your dream?
And I'm going to add to that because I had this exact same question, but I want to say number one non-sports event. What is that? What is that
So
event?
my goal and vision with the Metro Parks, is there anybody here that
No.
represents the Metro Parks?
now that they represent them.
That represents them. Yeah.
I want to bring a huge music festival to Toledo. I think that we already support music coming to our downtown area. I think we're creating venue spaces now that can gather large groups, and I want to do a Toledo Palooza.
Nice.
Maybe, I don't know what maybe we call it a 4, 1, and 9 Palooza.
Okay, this took us 2 months.
Okay.
So please, good Lord. Yeah.
If you got there that quickly and it took us this much time.
Yeah.
How about the 419?
That's what I meant. That's what I
mean,
Yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah.
That would be a real good
Sorry,
one.
I'm
No
just
one's
gonna
using that name.
Start swallowing some of the mercury I brought with me.
So why do you say a music fest? I mean, I guess what is it about that type of an event that you think Toledo's the right venue for?
Well, first of all, you need space, which we're creating. Second of all, you need collaboration and partnership. We've already shown that our downtown supports music coming here, whether it's inside or outside. And I just think that that will draw big crowds. It's not a sporting event and is something that we can manage. It's my goal. 5 years.
This might be. Oh my God, Mary! It's not you're just a guest, so you don't get to talk the whole time. My hospitality number is 0. So the rebirth of the mid-sized city. Can we talk a little bit about scaling that and why that's responsible? I think Toledo has a really. The normal vernacular is why we can't do something. The Mud Hens are a great AAA experience. They don't try to be the Yankees necessarily. I work for a park system that tries to deliver world-class experiences, but on a scale that fits here. You are, as are my colleagues around the table here, people who push the envelope and want to do better. Can you talk a little bit about the upside of living in a town this size, working in a town this size? Because all of you had opportunities, I'm sure, to leave, except for Gretchen.
Obviously.
Largely because of her arrests. But talk to me about you personally.
Those were sealed.
Okay. You had your time.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little about your choices and how that plays into the right town, right fit.
Right. So I have left Toledo. I lived in California and Nashville and Columbus and have done events throughout the whole United States, actually. And I just think that there is something special about having something here. And what makes it special is you go to these other big cities, it's a dime a dozen, right? And you have people who do the events and you have people who attend the events. The great thing about this city is we truly all get immersed in the experience. So if you're in Chicago, it's on every corner. But here in Toledo, it is a great opportunity for everybody to kind of get involved and immersed in the experience. And that is why I stay in this town. I know that I couldn't probably do what we do here in Toledo or have the experience of dreaming, and creating something that we've never seen in a city that does this all the time.
With Jeep Fest, I mean, it was, that was the first like real national event that I was a part of. And it was the coolest thing to hear the attendees from around the country say that what makes Toledo Jeep Fest unique is that the entire city goes all in on Jeep Fest.
Sure.
And so when you wake up in a hotel, the paper that's sitting outside your front door, the headline on the front page is Jeep Fest. When you flip on the news, you can't flip through the local channels without them all being all about Jeep Fest. And so you go to any coffee shop or restaurant in any corner of the community, it's Jeep Fest. I mean, that was Solheim Cup. I think that's the real cool part about a community this size is we're big enough to do big things, but yet small enough that everybody knows what's happening.
And that was truly the greatest part to me for Solheim Cup. And we've talked about this a million times, Gretchen, is how everyone came together to make it successful in our community.
No one said no.
No one said no. And trust me, we asked for big things and things that people would, that I went into it thinking it was going to be a big no. And our response was, okay, how can we make this happen? And that was from a public, a private, a community sector. Like everybody was involved to saying, what can we do to make this happen?
I'm fearful that we've already listed them, but I'm curious to a person here. Do you have an aha Toledo moment as an adult?
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about it. I mean, Jeep Fest, I think, was a piece of that, and sort of, maybe the better answer for me on that one is, I lived in Texas for 3 years, and the number of times that I would hear, I worked, I was an announcer here in Toledo for a long time, went to Texas, announced at SMU, and we would have meetings with the athletic department talking about these challenges that they're having. And I would say to them like, oh, well, here's how we solved that in Toledo.
Yeah.
And man, were they livid, right? When Dallas, Texas hears Toledo has solved this, you should think about this.
Sure.
But it was that moment that was like, okay, wait a second. I can only go have dinner once a night. So sure, Dallas has 10 times as many options, but I can only go to one of them. Right. And I can only eat at 365 different places throughout the year. So I don't need 2,500 options. I need, realistically, I need 25 great options for me to have dinner, and I'm good. And so it was one of those, like, Toledo is big enough.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think that was that moment for me when I'm like, living in Dallas, I lived in Dallas, which no one does. It was 45 minutes to get to the airport.
Yeah. Yes.
It was 45 minutes to get to a baseball game.
Right.
It was 45 minutes to get to a football game. And that's with no traffic.
Right.
Well, if you want major leagues, it's 45 minutes to get to Detroit.
Yeah, right.
It's 45 minutes to get to Detroit Airport, right? We've got flights coming back into the Toledo Express Airport that maybe there's places you can fly out of here. But our regional airport is still really close. And so it was like that realization for me that, like, Toledo is big enough, right?
Yeah.
We're big enough to do anything we want.
That's right.
I'm embarrassed to I didn't think about that correlation. I lived in Chicago. It took me easily 45 minutes to get to the airport in Chicago. So, I was walking. Gretchen, what about you?
A couple of different things. I think that's
It's just one.
A little bit what Kevin was saying about just access. I mean, if you truly want to get something done in our community, you can get it done.
Or participate.
Or participate in it. Some people might argue there's barriers to entry, and I'm sure there are. But, you get some people around you and a good idea, you're going to get to the right place to get something accomplished. And I remember when we opened our coffee house 30 or so years ago now, and we would be over there working on it on our first location. We'd go over and work at night and we were painting and renovating and stuff ourselves. And people would walk up from the neighborhood, and Toledo does sort of naysay a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
To start.
Right.
And people would say, so we're opening the coffee house. That's never going to work. Good luck.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Mom, go back home.
Why are you drunk again?
But then it was embraced, people
Yes.
learned about it, loved it, still talk about it unnecessarily.
Absolutely.
And it's, but there's all kinds of ideas like that. It's a very recent example is Deseo, which is that great new Mexican restaurant at Cricket West. Small little place, amazing, delicious. People love it. They talk about it. They want to go to it. You can't go there without a reservation now. Supporting this man and his family. And, it's that kind of thing that happens again and again and again in Toledo, despite the initial naysaying.
Right.
That happens.
I know you didn't ask me, but my aha moment of
Well, it
when
was
I
for
fell in
everyone.
love.
I didn't realize you had to be asked multiple times, for Christ's
Am
sake.
I the guest?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's not very nice.
He is very nice.
I asked everyone. I'm sorry, Mary, we didn't get to you as soon as you'd like, because the other two were
But
yapping about how they feel.
I think the Solheim Cup experience, and when I thought about the initial plan, I remember when I was a little kid and we opened up Portside.
Yes.
And I remember that feeling that I had of, oh my God, this is my city. We
Sure,
have this
right.
river, and then all the people came down and the
Everybody.
ribbon cutting and the balloons.
I
and
totally remember
I'm
that.
like, I want to help create those experiences for people to be so proud and so excited about when they're here.
That's a good segue to young Mary. What kind of goofy ass toys did you play with to want to do this to yourself as a grown up? What did you set up festivals with your
Yes.
G.I. Joe guys
I
or
did.
Barbie dolls?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't play with dolls. I had huge, big parties with all
Sure.
the people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we would charge fees.
Yeah,
for
good
them
way to make
come
friends.
in.
Wait, this is legit. Like, you're not saying like for pretend.
No, I'm not saying
No,
for
charging
pretend.
her friends to be on their own block is what she's saying.
Put on shows.
Yeah.
All right. So what was what's the first big event that you remember planning?
You mean as a child?
Yeah.
Birth.
I didn't
Sent out
plan that.
invitations.
I acted out Predator as a one person.
I vividly remember having a cat party when I would, and I remember my mom coming in, and I used to strap our cats in little high chairs. And the weird thing about me back then,
There goes
and
our-
I don't know
okay.
if this if anybody else has this, but I used to have a lot of imaginary friends that I used to plan parties. As a matter of fact, I think I still do. I have yes.
Are they with us here now?
Tommy died in a fire, but
Your imaginary friend died?
yeah.
What a sad ass kid you are. Good Lord. Yeah.
So I used to have parties with my imaginary.
How long do these run? This is good, right?
I think we
With
made
your
it.
imaginary friends,
Did you
what was the
plan
attendance
Tommy's
at
funeral?
Solheim?
Sorry, Mom.
So in the intro, Gretchen mentioned that you got you're involved with theater. Obviously, you got a passion for theater.
You're
I'm
insane.
curious how much that has sort of prepared you. And I'm
Sure.
as a theater person, I'm asking this in a way that it's going to sound disparaging, but like prepared you for rejection, prepared you for being an outsider,
Yeah.
prepared you for doing things that people don't necessarily think they want,
Right.
Yeah.
until you give it to them.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so I'm such a huge believer that everybody should have theater in their life.
100%.
And
Hey, tell me what that means exact to you.
so to me, first of all, I feel that it creates this creative side, but I believe that there are things that you learn in theater,
Yeah.
like you had mentioned, that you learn nowhere else. I mean, sports is a good thing. Not everybody plays sports, but I knew when I was going to be a theater major, most people are like, "Oh God, what are you going to do with your life?" I'm like, I have been acting my entire life.
Yeah, right.
I act like I'm smart. I act like I'm funny. I act
Sure.
well. You know that, yeah.
You do it very well.
It's radio. They don't know you're pointing to me.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
But no, I think that it creates this space of exactly what you said: the rejection, the failure, getting up, learning lines,
Yeah.
rehearsing,
Making decisions.
making decisions.
Yeah.
And that the great thing is with acting, and I'm into live theater, is you can change it every day. It doesn't play right the first day. You can change it, your voice, your tone, everything each day. And
The connection between putting on a show
yep,
and hospitality
it's the same
are
thing.
the same thing.
It
Like
is.
I think about,
As opposed to theater and law.
yeah,
I mean,
like
there's a lot-
being
it
like
translates
present.
into
It's
almost everything.
about
Right.
this is about presentation.
It
so
is.
like I think about. I mean, I love now like hosting dinner parties and place settings and making everything. But that you could say it's back
Certainly.
to
It's
wanting
all
to
a show.
put on a show and
That's exactly
it's
right.
an experience. You want to be hospitable. You want people to enjoy the whole thing, and that's what you do.
Yeah, and when I'm doing an event, I treat it like I'm
Absolutely.
Like a show.
like a show.
I get it.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about whether it's a dinner party or a theater, it's really about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes
Right.
and
Yes.
thinking about how they experience this, right?
That's exactly
And
right.
there's incredible compassion that comes from that
Right.
that I
There
don't
is.
think you learn from, when I'm thinking about athletics, and I grew up having played sports and done theater, I don't think it's the same level as this, every light cue, every sound, everything.
Right. Yeah.
And the theme and the color story and the costume and the
all
it's all
hospitality.
there.
And,
It's all
and
there.
my goal has always been to teach children this. So my theater that I started 14 years ago is a
Good Lord.
children's
Good for
theater.
you.
Yep. They took the arts away from the school system, which
Yeah.
is usually the first to go. I knew that I wanted my children to be involved in some sort of creative aspect of their life. And I created my RAM Drama, the theater organization. Started off with 24 kids. Now there's, been over 1,000 kids through my program.
Now, are they all real people or like before?
Ignore that. What show were you doing
Tommy
this year?
has
I would
never-
actually, before you answer that question, as both a producer and as an actor, is there something that you performed that was literally the most difficult thing you've ever done? Carrying a single character or maybe a performance. What sticks out is that was the most challenging.
So I did a show in college. It's called Working. And I played a mill worker.
Yeah.
And I had never experienced, and I wanted to learn the character. So one of the guys in the show, his father owned a mill. I went and worked there. I was supposed to be an 8-hour shift. I lasted 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that was a struggle for me.
Yeah, and you're a hard worker too. That's
And I couldn't physically do it. Like I wanted to learn my character, and I knew that that's nothing that I'd physically
That's
ever
amazing.
be able
What was
to
the
do.
character was?
The name was the mill worker.
Okay.
Now, do you sing also? Or do you okay.
I do.
I was a vocal performance major.
Yes.
I think that we've discussed this
we
before.
have. I think we should
Everyone is
probably do that. Yes.
But
all of Gretchen's
I
guests are just
recently-
ways for her to talk about herself. Oh, I am too. Can you imagine? Imagine the coincidence.
Do you want,
It was 5, 6,
A
7,
dinner
8.
party at my house with my burned up
I think that
friend Tommy.
Matt
like,
is in a little bit of a grumpy mood today.
is this like karaoke? We're just gonna like it's now time for
Yes,
Gretchen.
exactly.
Yes, here we go.
exactly.
Gretchen's gonna sing with every one of our
I can
guests.
direct
So
it,
when
yes.
you go to an event,
Yes.
not necessarily theater, but when you go to an event, what is the thing you know that you're able to identify all the problems?
Yes.
This should have been here. They should be saying this now, whatever. But what is like the mistake that you see all the time that just drives you nuts?
Well, first of all, I'm a horrible date because I do look at everything from lights to plates to. But the thing that drives me absolutely the craziest
Dumb
is
questions. No, not that.
not that
You're fine, Matt.
is having a server not smile.
Yeah.
Makes me. I would rather have a bad meal and great service than bad service and a great meal. So that is something that I will.
That's a great answer.
So I'm going to kind of jump in a like tangent off of that
Yes.
a little bit, right? But I've talked a lot about like it fascinates me that McDonald's and Taco Bell and Starbucks are tactically the same thing, right? They're all fast food.
Yep.
But yet the experience inside a Taco Bell is so different than the experience inside a Starbucks. The experience at Chick-fil-A is so different than the experience at McDonald's. What, I guess you're working with kids in theater. Like, what are you teaching them to get them to be Chick-fil-A and Starbucks and not Taco Bell and McDonald's?
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to rehearsal. So, I mean, I believe that the people at Chick-fil-A and that experience, it's all a script. It's all rehearsal. It is not even an option for you at Chick-fil-A. And I've worked with a lot of different organizations that create scripts. Now, they want you to be your authentic self, but if you first start off knowing that you're going, yes, ma'am, thank you, ma'am, and you abide by their cultural script, it's the same experience. It's the experience that you want to have. But people get lazy and they don't take time for training and development, and that's a whole nother podcast.
How do you shut it off? All joking around about being a bad date. I mean, you are going out or doing things on your own theoretically to disconnect, let off steam. How does Mary go out as not Mary, the producer?
Yeah,
To be determined.
so I'm still working on that.
Yeah, no,
She stays home.
yeah. I do a lot of weeping.
No, I don't. I have
get it.
this ridiculous amount of energy, and I
Yeah.
don't want to stop.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I think how I relax is when my body says you're done.
Okay.
I don't think it's something that I purposely choose.
Okay.
When you were in California and other places outside of Ohio, what kinds of jobs did you have? Did you work retail? Did you?
Yeah, so I was the regional vice president of a place called Glamour Shots. Do you
There's no
remember?
way. There's no way.
Do you remember?
Do you potentially have access to Gretchen's
To
old
old files.
glamour shots?
I was never allowed to get glamour shots
Based on the mall rules.
based, based on some sort of a draconian law.
I think we should recreate.
I
and
would do it in
Glamour
5
Shots
seconds.
for you.
Yes,
We
now-
should bring Glamour Shots
Yeah,
back.
yeah. But I distinctly remember it, and I remember seeing people going,
Same.
and you'd get like it was at the mall.
Yes.
You'd get all dressed up, and the airbrushing and Olin Mills.
So everything, again, like you ask, all my jobs have been about theater, except mortgage banking.
What
weird.
I'm legitimately interested in what did you do as the regional vice president of Glamour Shots?
Would you do their makeup?
I did not.
Okay.
No, I just led people to perform. I mean, it literally goes back to that. So
you were training staff.
I was training staff, opening stores, creating revenue, the top ones in the country, I might add.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, yes. But again,
It makes perfect sense.
it made perfect sense.
It really
That's, you put the makeup on, you make people feel important, you enjoy the experience. It's still hospitality.
See, when I was in high school,
It makes them feel good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
like I loved theater so much. When I was in high school, I told my parents I want to be a theater major. And I distinctly remember my dad, no disrespect to him because he eventually changed his tune, but saying like, you're not going to get a degree in unemployment.
Sure.
Right.
And so then I ended up getting a degree in communication. So joke was on him.
Showed him.
That's
I did the same thing to my lawyer dad.
right. Yeah. Nope, not going to happen. But I think it's that, for me, I got a degree in transferable skills.
Right.
And I don't think people realize how transferable the skills of theater are.
It's funny because I've talked to several of my friends who have graduated with a theater degree and what they're doing now. And we all kind of want to go back together and like maybe make a book for those, parents to give to those parents of the kids who are starting their career.
But you have kids, Mary. How's that changed your tune? And I know a little bit about your background, certainly, and I know your parents' really stories of them as being supportive. But how has that sort of shaped how you parent your boys?
As far as doing what they love to do?
Yeah, or just everything you've just articulated. This was a passion of yours. They certainly probably go ahead.
Yeah, or like pigeonholing them into like, hey, I know how good theater was for me, so you are gonna do theater.
Yes,
and
they
express yourself in this way. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, they started theater. My youngest in kindergarten, my oldest in second grade, and they could stand up here right now on a platform and do a full speech for you.
We'll edit this out, but is one of them better than the other one? Which one's the shitty one?
Well, it depends on what year we're in.
It depends on the performance. The genre.
You mean like on stage or as a kid?
There's one of them that's not as good as the other one is, and I want you to say who it is right now.
We'll call Brian and ask him.
Who's more talented?
My oldest is the bigger ham.
Sure.
And my youngest takes things a little more serious.
Sure. Okay.
See, I was just talking with somebody, and Matt, I'm specifically looking at you on this one.
Yep.
I was just talking with somebody about trying to create a presentation. I'm involved in Rotary. I'm always thinking about what are things we can present to our club, to our members. But I want to create a presentation on improv as a necessary leadership skill.
100%. So I obviously, for those of you who don't know, which is presumably everyone, Gretchen and I took improv classes probably close to a decade ago now. 5 years ago, Gretchen, just fill in whatever time you want. We'll edit it. And I now have our programming team and our supervisors go through improv training. The difference that I saw immediately was it makes you a different listener. It's not just being fast on your feet and being able to BS your way through things, but certainly you either have that skill or you don't, and I don't think that's something necessarily to aspire to have. But it does require you to listen all the way to the end of the other person's sentence and or thought, which we don't do anymore, and not to sound old-timey, but we don't listen to the end anymore, right? We're either waiting for our turn to talk, our turn to breathe, our turn to jam our anecdote into it, so it doesn't make you listen. And the sentence that you learn from improv is yes and, right? I don't know if that's a sentence or not, but that theory is that you are picking up what someone gave you and then you're taking it someplace else. It's not a no, right? And I don't know if there's few better lessons that are applicable to all things we've talked about today than yes, I have you, and then this, right?
It killed me not to interrupt you this whole time.
I know, me too.
That was a lot for me,
but I was listening.
That's why one of us is good at improv and one of us isn't.
That means Gretchen is good.
No,
and
I'm
you
not
are not.
good.
Tommy went to a show of Gretchen's and he burned himself to death. Poor Tommy. My imaginary friend
Oh, you're
burned
bringing
himself.
up my friend.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, Mary. Yeah.
Full circle.
How could you forgotten your own friend?
He died so long ago, Matt.
That's right. Yeah, I guess he's really turned the corner.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, my friend Tommy that burned to death. No one else has an imaginary friend that burned to death with crazy lady. I just assumed we'd all shared that experience.
Exactly.
Did anybody else have a
But I agree with improv. I mean, it's fun. Those classes are great. And it is. People use it for leadership training, for team building.
Yeah.
So learning how to communicate with one another and who hates it and doesn't want to be up and maybe is really good at this other thing.
Sure.
And the people that do want to be more in the front, they do a great job with the training.
And the people, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, in your role, I mean, have you taught theater to corporations, to businesses?
I have not. I have focused primarily, all on children. Because again, I feel like if you get them young and you learn those skills at a young age, and it's tried and true of what's happening to the kids that have gone through my program on what they started at and what they end with are two totally different
I also
people.
think this might be a gross generalization, but the joy of teaching children as opposed to some executives.
Yeah,
Those
but
could
I
be-
would
but your
love
point is well
that.
taken.
I would love
Yeah,
to,
I
to
The
think-
do
executives
that.
presumably pay better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Well,
Yeah.
You'd hope.
I'm paid in different ways. my heart and soul. And,
What has been of the performances you've put on through Ram Drama? What's been your favorite one?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's
Is this like asking you? Is that?
that's almost.
It's like asking which one of your kids is a
Yeah,
better
I'd rather
actor.
tell you which.
Yes, that
I'd
would-
rather tell you which one of my kids I like better.
You just don't remember both their names.
We can do that one instead.
I would tell you, but I can't remember both their names. It's hard to.
No, I think my favorite show has probably been Lion King. It was the first show I did in a larger theater.
What theater was that?
So we started at a grade school, Coy Elementary.
Yeah.
And because we wanted to incorporate a lot more kids in, we got a grant and renovated Eisenhower Junior High. It's a 700-seat theater.
It is phenomenal.
It's
I mean,
phenomenal.
I'm
that
embarrassed, I don't know
theater
where that is.
is so.
Is it still a school also?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It's
Place
so
me, where is it?
disproportionate to what you'd expect in a grade school.
Right.
Like you walk in and you're
Right.
like, this is a mini Valentine.
It is.
I mean, it is.
It is.
Where is
beautiful.
It's in Oregon,
Okay.
out by closer to Maumee Bay State Park.
Okay.
Is it up Star?
So it's up, yes, up Star or Corduroy, and then in the middle there, yeah.
Gotcha.
So we got a grant, got it refurbished.
Cool.
And I've been with the same team for forever. But so yes, so Lion King, I added a lot more costumes and dancing because we had the space. So, but
I
all
have
of
to
them
tell
are
you
very
guys,
special.
my niece was auditioning for a show in Chicago. She was going to be home for break, and I texted Mary, and I'm like, can you work with Harriet for a little bit? She's really nervous. It was for Mary Poppins. And so Mary's like, sure, come over. So she goes over there, and she's got her choreographer there. She's there. They got the script. They got a practice song. And
Yeah.
they spent Mary must have spent 3 hours worth or 2 hours worth there with my sister there, practicing, going through lines and that. And so she got one of the leads. And she sent me a text saying, Mary made me feel so great. I feel much more confident than I ever did before. I'm so excited to audition. I mean, it was the sweetest, nicest thing.
That's probably a fair way to wrap this up, honestly. There's no better story than that one. I guess, Mary, to close, if there were 3 things that were said about you after you were gone in the area, how would you want to be remembered as part of the Toledo
I'm writing them
fabric?
down.
Like gone out of this room?
Like Tommy. Like Tommy.
Yeah.
Like Tom.
Yeah.
When you and Tommy meet back up again.
Yeah.
That's right.
What do you want Tommy to say?
Firehouse in the sky. Yeah.
I would like people to say that I made them laugh. I would like people to say that I was a great friend. And I would like them to say that, man, that Toledo Palooza was the best event I've ever been to in my entire life.
Well, you got a shot still. 1 out of 3.
All right.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 is not bad.
I'm going on and buying the URL right now.
Let's go.
So when she goes to book
Yeah.
it, she's like, oh, wait, who's this Kevin guy?
You should just register. You should
I've never
register
met him before.
every single city Palooza. Just get
perfect.
all of those
Yeah.
domain names.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a side business we should do. But anyway, Mary, thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
Mary, awesome.
We
See you.
appreciate it, and stay glassy, Toledo.
Nailed it.
Thanks to our guest, Mary Brucker, for joining us today. And thanks to you for listening. On behalf of Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, I'm Kevin Mullen. This is the 419. We'll see you next month.